Hello and welcome. Today we are again here with another topic, and today's topic is water resource management historical perspective. Water resources occupy an extremely important position in the environmental discourse both in the history and in the contemporary period. It is such a paradox that the total availability of water on planet Earth is so much that water had for a long time been considered as an inexhaustible natural resource, yet water scarcities are today staring the human civilization so badly in its face that none would even imagine the bounty of nature with regard to water as a reality ever. World oceans cover about 3/4 of Earth's surface. The total amount of water on Earth is about 1400 million cubic kilometers. However, the portion of the fresh water in the expanse is very small. About 2.7% of the total water available on the Earth is fresh water, of which about 75.2% lies frozen in polar regions and another 22.6% is available as groundwater. The rest is available in lakes, rivers, atmosphere, moisture, soil, and vegetation. India sustains about 17% of world population with only 4.6% of the total average runoff, that is 1900 cubic kilometers. Its availability in nature, though, is highly uneven both spatially and temporarily. India is one of the wettest countries of the world with an annual average rainfall of 117 centimeters over the plains, about 1.5 times the annual average over the land areas of the globe taken together. The evidence for the use of water resources by the earliest settled societies is sufficient to merit an analytical attention. The practice of irrigation has been observed since the establishment of settled agriculture during the Indus Valley civilization. As agricultural development was the pillar of the economy, all large powerful empires paid special attention to development of irrigation systems. Water resources during the colonial period. The indications relating to the use of water resources in the medieval period are as plentiful as for the earlier period. Rapid advances took place in the construction of inundation canals. The Tughlaqs encouraged the digging of canals, and Firoz Shah Tughlaq is considered to be the greatest canal builder before the 19th century. Irrigation is said to have been one of the major reasons for the growth and expansion of the Vijayanagar Empire in the 15th century. The Mughals had known the importance of water as they promoted irrigation facilities by providing loans to farmers to install irrigational devices. Water is said to have played such an important role in the life of a state that Delhi was abandoned and rehabilitated 7 times in search of abundant water resources. It may be noted most of the canal irrigation prior to the arrival of the British was the diversionary nature. In the early 19th century, however, the colonial rule initiated a sharp break in the technique by introducing perennial canal irrigation in several parts of the South Asian subcontinent. The colonial interface with water resources began with the development of irrigation works, the renovation, improvement, and extension of existing network. In the area of modern irrigation, the permanent headworks in the form of barrages and weirs were thrown across riverbeds and their waters diverted through intricate and extensive canal system. These barrages and weirs were equipped with a series of shutters to regulate flows by impounding water during lean season and diverting it into canals and on the rivers. The former could be flipped open to release water during period of the river's peak discharge. The ensuing period saw the construction of several large canal irrigation schemes like the Bari Doab Canal, 1859, Godavari, 1852, Ganges, 1854, the Krishna, 1855, the Sirhind, 1889, climaxing with the grandest irrigation project of the colonial period, the Triple Canal Project, 1916. The reappearance of drought and famines during the second half of the 19th century also necessitated the development of irrigation works as a protection against the failure of crops. Significant protective works constructed during the period including the Betwa Canal, the Nera Left Bank Canal, the Gokak Canal and the Rashukulya Canal. The colonial irrigation policies were significantly influenced and reiterated by the Famine and Irrigation Commissions. The first Famine Commission, 1880, emphasized the need for direct state initiative in the development of irrigational works, whereas the first Irrigation Commission, 1901, recommended the renovation of several existing defunct and dilapidated irrigation works and proposing new schemes. In India, a new hydraulic principle was used in the 1930s. The new water resource development concept known as the Multipurpose River Valley Development, MPRVD, was modeled after the Tennessee Valley Association in the post-Depression United States. The plan was to prepare the river through a series of interconnecting dams, reservoirs, and diversions from its watershed to its estuary by harnessing its waters for navigation, agriculture, flood control, and power generation, all at the same time. Between 1943 and 1946, the colonial government approved plans to construct MPRVD schemes on Mahanadi and Kosi rivers, as well as establishing the Central Water Irrigation and Navigation Commission as a professional water bureaucracy to develop and implement other MPRVD schemes. MPRVD schemes continue to remain the dominant strategy of water resource management in independent India. Multipurpose river projects looked the best solution as India engaged in planned economic activities to achieve self-reliance, foster economic development, and improve the standard of living of its people. Some important projects were initiated, such as the Damodar Valley Project, completed in 1963 across the Satluj River. Bhakra Nangal project was the joint venture of Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan governments, built across the river Rihand, a tributary of Son River. The largest multipurpose project of Uttar Pradesh, Rihand Dam project, was completed in 1966 with a cost of 375 million rupees. The Hirakud project involved construction of 3 dams across Mahanadi and Hirakud. Tikarpara and Naraj, the Chambal project, was a joint venture of the Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh state governments. The Kosi project was the result of a joint agreement between the governments of Bihar and Nepal in 1954. State environment and water resources. The themes of water community, state and environment form an integral part of the contemporary discourse on environment and are rooted in the current politics of development. David Moses articulates at least 2 major political and policy positions currently shape questions around water resources and their development in India. The first is the critique of the modernizing development strategies of the centralized state and the dominance of Western technical perspectives on the irrigation and water resources over those of the indigenous community. A critique sharply focused in recent years by the controversy over large dams, the Sardar Sarovar in particular, but which in India derives from the visions of Gandhi and his followers. The second is a reformist policy arguing for devolution of irrigation management responsibilities from the state to the community of users, which forms a part of the international consensus on public sector reform underpinned by ideologies of privatization, free state, and a reduced role for the development state. The relationship between state and resource management has often been explained in terms of linear grand and mega narratives. The dominant thrust of such overarching explanation, known as the standard environmental narrative, our new traditionalist discourse puts all the blame on the state. According to such narratives, the pre-colonial India is seen as a period of harmonious and sustainable resource management. Colonialism is seen as the breaking point, and it is argued that the intervention of the state, particularly the colonial state, and the attendant revenue and proprietary rights regime played havoc with common resources, leading to the demise of village traditions of sustainable resource use. The post-colonial forms of government accelerated the process. Indian water harvesting system are represented as rooted in a pre-colonial organic village economy, wherein the autonomous village republics were the primary locus of management and natural resources and economic and political affairs. Colonial rule converted village common property into state property, denied customary rights, and weakened traditional village authority, transforming managed commons into degraded free access resources. It placed the decentralized village water systems under the control of centralized bureaucracies which prioritized modern engineering knowledge, large-scale irrigation, and the expansion of commercial agriculture, neglecting indigenous skills. On the other hand, punitive colonial revenue regimes impoverished the peasantry and undermined the local financial base of water harvesting systems. The dismal state of India's traditional water harvesting systems only worsened with the arrogance of post-independence Indian political leadership and the irrigation bureaucracy, which preferred Nehru's vision of independent India with large dams as temples of Gandhi's vision of independent India founded upon its village heritage. It also calls for the revival of community control and traditional water harvesting systems. The relationships between the state and the community were more complex and problematic than has been made out to be in traditional accounts. David Moses points out in his study of statecraft, ecology, and collective action in South India that the impact of colonial governance on the water commons defies a simple representation and has more to do with changing systems of state than the erosion of village tradition. Indeed, traditional village water management system proves extremely elusive, and identification of the moment of their collapse is an impossible task involving a seemingly endless journey back in the time. Thus, the decisive moment of loss can be variously located in The 1960s and 70s Green Revolution, expansion of capitalist agriculture and groundwater irrigation, change brought about in the 1950s following independence, the colonial commercialization of dry land agriculture in the late 19th and 20th centuries, the centralization of the colonial government and the building of technocratic irrigation bureaucracy from the 1850s, the consolidation of British power, its revenue system and property law by 1840s. The dismantling of the South Indian old regimes around 1800, the neglect of decentralized systems under the Mughal rule during the 18th century, the collapse of the Chola Empire and its system of locality and village government. Surface and groundwater resources. The annual precipitation, including snowfall, which is the main source of the water in the country, is estimated to be of the order of 4,000 cubic kilometers. According to the National Water Policy 2002, as per the latest estimate, 1993, out of a total precipitation, including snowfall, of around 4,000 billion cubic meters in the country, the availability from surface water and worthy of replenishment groundwater is put at 1869 billion cubic meter based on basin-wise estimates of Central Water Commission. Due to various constraints of topography and uneven distribution of resource over space and time, it has been estimated that of 1869 cubic kilometers, only about 1122 cubic kilometers can be put to beneficial use. From this, nearly 690 cubic kilometer shall be due to surface water resources. The availability of water is highly uneven in time and space. Precipitation is confined only to monsoon months every year, varying from 100 millimeter in Rajasthan to over 10,000 millimeter at Cherrapunji in Meghalaya. Rivers and underground water aquifers often cut across state boundaries. Based on 1991 census, the per capita availability of water works out to 222 cubic meters. There are two main sources of water resources: surface water and groundwater. Rivers are main source of surface water. Inland water resources of the country can be classified as rivers and canals, reservoirs, tanks and ponds, jheels, oxbow lakes, derelict water and brackish water. K.L. Rao points out that the total quantity of water annually carried by the rivers of the country is about 16,45,000 million cubic meters. Of the rivers and canals, Uttar Pradesh occupies the first place with a total length of 31.2 thousand kilometers, followed by Jammu and Kashmir and Madhya Pradesh. The next in the order of geographical coverage of inland water bodies are the tanks and ponds, occupying 2.9 million hectare, and then coming the reservoirs covering 2.1 million hectare. Most of the area under tanks and ponds lies in southern states of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Along with West Bengal, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh, these states account for 62% of total area under tanks and ponds in the country. As far as reservoirs are concerned, major states like Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh account for a large portion of area under reservoirs. More than 77% of area under jheels, oxbow lakes and derelict water lies in the states of Orissa, Uttar Pradesh and Assam. Orissa ranks first in relation to the availability of brackish water, followed by Gujarat, Kerala and West Bengal. Importance of groundwater. The importance of groundwater is a source for meeting drinking, industrial and irrigation requirements for an ever-increasing population. It caters to around 50% of the total irrigation in the country. India has a vast area for underground water resources. Around 22% of India's rainfall infiltrates under the ground. Of this total, about 430 million cubic meter reaches up to the upper surface of the soil. Nearly 384 billion cubic meter reaches the previous strata, which can be obtained by digging wells. According to a rough estimate, the total groundwater reserve at a depth of 300 meters is 3,700 megaham. This is almost 10 times the annual rainfall. The Central Groundwater Board estimates the annual exploitable potential at 42.3 million ham, of which less than one-fourth is presently being exploited. In terms of exploitation of groundwater potential, Punjab comes to the top, 93.85%, followed by Haryana, 83.88%, Tamil Nadu, 60.44%, Rajasthan, 50.63%, Gujarat, 41.45%, Uttar Pradesh, 37.67%, Maharashtra, 30.39%, West Bengal, 24.18%, and Andhra Pradesh, 23.63%. Although the groundwater is a resource that can be replenished annually, its availability is non-uniform in space and time. A wide range of factors, climatic conditions, relief, topography, geological structure, and local hydrological conditions control the groundwater occurrence and movement. Groundwater, being a dynamic and replenishable resource, is generally estimated based on the component of annual recharge, which could be developed by means of suitable groundwater structures. An understanding of the behavior and characteristics of the water-bearing rock formation known as aquifer is crucial for the quantification of groundwater resources. An aquifer has two main functions: to transit water and to store it. The groundwater resources in unconfined aquifers can be classified as static and dynamic. The static resources can be defined as the amount of groundwater available in the permeable portion of the aquifer below the zone of water level fluctuation. The dynamic resources can be defined as the amount of groundwater available in the zone of water level fluctuation. The replenishable groundwater resource is essentially a dynamic resource which is replenished annually or periodically by precipitation, irrigation return flow, canal seepage, tank seepage, influent seepage, etc., etc. The strategies used to calculate groundwater resources are mostly based on hydrological budget techniques. The groundwater regime hydrologic equation is a subset of the water balance equation that involves measurement of inflow and outflow from a groundwater reservoir as well as changes in storage. The main issue associated with unscientific and unregulated groundwater development are overexploitation of the resource that either causes a decrease in the levels, causing failure of wells and tube wells, or deepening of structure resulting in higher pumping cost, seepage from sewer systems, industrial and urban waste disposal sites, and landward movement of the seawater freshwater interface in coastal aquifers. For an effective water security system, it is imperative to take steps for augmentation of groundwater storage through artificial recharge, concurrent with the measures for development of the resource. The CWGB has carried out a number of artificial recharge and groundwater conservation studies to develop the methodologies and technologies and to assess the economic viability of these measures. Percolation tanks have been found to be particularly effective in checking the surface runoff during the monsoon and conserving the same water recharging the underlying aquifers. Efforts have also been made to intercept and recharge the rooftop runoff during the rainy season by encouraging the installation of simple water harvesting systems. Water resources, spatial and temporal variations. Rajasthan, which accounts for almost 8% of India's population, is endowed with only 1% of country's water resource. The annual average runoff per capita in the country varies between 18,147 cubic meters in the Brahmaputra basin and 631 cubic meters in the west flowing rivers of Kutch and Saurashtra to 411 cubic meters in the east flowing rivers from Pennar to Kanyakumari in the south. About 80 to 90% of the annual rainfall occurs during the 4 monsoon months, June to September. Every year, for 6 to 8 months of the year, the rainfall is either scanty or nil over most parts of the country. Rainfall in India shows unequal geographical distribution and the frequent departures from the normal. It generally exceeds 1000 millimeter in areas to the east to 2500 millimeters along almost the entire west coast and western Ghats and over most of Assam and sub-Himalayan West Bengal. The peninsular region has large areas of rainfall less than 600 millimeter with pockets of even 500 millimeters. Of the major rivers, the Ganga-Brahmaputra Meghna system is the biggest system with a catchment area measuring nearly 110 megahectares, which is more than 43% of the catchment area of all the major rivers in the country. As against the national per capita annual availability of water of 2,208 cubic meters, the average availability in Brahmaputra and Barak is as high as 16,589 cubic meters, while it is as low as 360 cubic meters in the Sabarmati basin. The total area of inland water resources is unevenly distributed over the country, with 5 states, namely Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka and West Bengal, accounting for more than half of the country's inland water bodies. So that's all for today. Thanks for being attentive. We shall be meeting in another class with a different topic. Hope you have grasped every bit of today's lecture. Be attentive, be careful and take care. Goodbye and goodbye.